Hello, my name's Steve Barrett. I'm the editor-in-chief of PR Week, and I'm delighted to be here with Rob Flaherty, who's president of Ketchum. We're going to talk about the agency world, the world of PR, and all the big issues that are affecting professionals within that at the moment. Rob, welcome to PR Week.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. It's an incredibly exciting time for PR, as we know, but it's also an exciting time in society generally, and PR and communications is kind of interwoven with that, and we're seeing some big issues that impinge on our world, and that's something you're very interested in. You've been very quick to draw parallels with and take lessons from that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, the things like the Arab Spring and the situation in the Middle East?
Yeah, I think there's so much convergence of things going on here. The digital revolution, along with, sadly, historically high levels of unemployment. It's extraordinary. The unemployment in the country of Spain, 22% across the whole country, 51% among youth unemployment. I think we have a generation of people who have been disenfranchised, but at the same time tremendously empowered by social media. So, to your point about a connection, while we watch the Arab Spring and we watch Occupy Wall Street spread all over the world, and they're not over, of course, I wonder if we shouldn't be being very mindful of an employee spring and an Occupy Your brand. So we already know, certainly in the blogosphere, that employees can say negative things about their own company, and consumers mobilize negatively around, think, financial institutions, but not quite to the point of regime change.
No.
And you have to wonder, with such an incredibly disenfranchised population, they're not just citizens of a nation state, they're also consumers, and they're also employees. And I just think it's a cautionary tale. This is a frustratingly disenfranchised generation, empowered more than ever by social media.
And you were just in Davos for the World Economic Forum.
Right.
And what were the big business and political leaders saying there? And was that a feeling they very much shared? And if so, what are they going to do about it? Because something needs to be done, clearly.
I think the big issue that jumped out at me in Davos this year, that I think it transcends just this year, and we should keep a close eye on it. At this time when 50% of the 100 largest economies in the world are companies, not nations, we know that the solutions to giant intractable problems, the financial crisis and unemployment, the education system and the healthcare system, are no longer those societal issues that are clearly in the purview of being solved by government. Government is having a hard time breaking through their own polarization to get much of anything done, country by country. So it takes a combination of companies combined with the public sector to actually solve these problems. Think education. If companies want people who like math and science, they need to do something about it, not just hope the education system is improved. The problem is both companies and governments suffer from short-termism. Governments are elected officials that want to get reelected in as short of as 2-year election cycles, as the case of the U.S. Congress. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And of course, companies are frequently focused on their quarterly earnings. So then you throw into the mix, we need you all to work together to solve long-term problems. And there's a huge disconnect there. And I worry about it. I think we need to help our clients focus on longer-term solutions in one way or another.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because obviously that puts a great responsibility on business,
yeah.
And you are in a position where you can help them with that, with communications role at the heart in the boardroom now, and being really the understanding that things can change overnight, and an image of a brand or a corporation. So what are you advising your clients to do then? How are you weaving yourself into the fabric of those decisions and making them happen?
Yeah, well, we are working with a lot of our clients on this. We like to think on a good day we are sensors of social change as counselors, and also help to be the conscience of the corporation. So as more corporations realize that their brand is a long-term asset, and responsibility in all of its forms has to be baked into the brand for it to be sustainable, we're working with a lot of our clients. Part of sustainability is getting involved in long-term issues and helping to solve them. So chronic illness, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, wellness, the lifestyle illnesses are things that most companies now need to take seriously. And if they aren't taking them seriously in their employee policies, but also in the products that they sell, then they're going to have a problem with their reputation. So at least through that lens, we can talk to them about the need to focus on something that has a long-term benefit.
The other side of this sort of social media coin, or the way the media has just sped up completely and the messages are flying around the world, is that inevitably companies are going to come across problems. And those, as we see every week, there's a new company, that gets into trouble, and you've got to be prepared and ready to act. So how can you prepare for those situations? Because you can't sit there for 24 hours and think about what to do. You've got to have those plans in place beforehand. How are you working with clients in that respect? Well,
I guess the first piece of advice is make your friends in peacetime, not in wartime. We have had situations where new clients come to us and say, we have a huge problem with this giant constituency, basically buy us a reputation, make us look good. That's not the way it works. You have to have been investing in that. So making sure that you're very well aware of all the stakeholders of your organization, and are you actually investing in peacetime to have equity and a decent relationship during that time. The immediacy, you're right, the immediacy of breaking negative issues is extraordinary. I do think most of our client organizations, sometimes with our help, have put in place global monitoring now to really be on top of those issues. Mm-hmm. And of course, they have to take them very seriously, even if they feel like they're on the other side of the globe.
I guess one of the frustrations is that if you put a plan in place like that, this came up at the agency roundtable that we're publishing to go with this video, you can't really necessarily take credit for a job well done, because actually a job well done often means nothing out there and no story, whereas it's only the bad news that makes the news. Is that a negative for our industry in terms of portraying itself? Because we do often get portrayed as, spin doctors or, black arts merchants. But actually, when you do a good job and when the messaging is right, nobody knows about it. Is that a problem for our industry, or is that just a natural function of what PR does these days?
Yeah, it probably is a problem in the sense that we don't get enough credit for the things we do. Some of the most important work we do is never seen. And sure, if everyone knew the good work that we did that doesn't see the light of day, we'd probably be better off. But our industry is doing really well. The important thing is that the buyers of our services are pretty well aware when they need our help. Of course, what ends up getting a lot of visibility are the gaffes that occur right at the beginning of the crisis. A lot of people form their point of view around that first 72 hours, don't particularly see that there's a long tail that involves a lot of great work that's never going to see the light of day. That's a lot of the stuff that those of us in this counseling field do. And the good news, I guess, is that the smart buyers know the backstory.
And is there anything we can do to improve the image of our industry? I mean, do we need to, let's say something happens which some might think is unethical practice, should the industry come out and take a harder line against that? Because at the moment, a lot of people tend to say, well, there, but for the grace of God go I.
Yeah.
And let's try and move on as quickly as possible. Does the industry as a group need to take a harder line when something does go wrong?
I think it would be interesting if from time to time we took a look at situations in which people could do better. Big institutions have a hard time criticizing anyone because they need to have a lot of friends. And so the large firms in our business are smart enough not to criticize. Number one, our crisis people at Ketchum would say they'll never criticize someone else's crisis because they're not in the boardroom. There are so many mitigating factors. You don't know if the CEO even wants to go along with the council. Who doesn't want to be visible around this? Is there a constituency that means you can't do what you want to do? And so we don't criticize from afar. But I certainly think there are times when the industry should take a stand for something that they don't think was handled in the right way.